Welcome back to Close to Broke, and today, as you guys can see from the scenery behind me, we are in Las Vegas. It's wonderful to have you folks back here. Today, I am at the Bellagio. Gonna meet a good friend of mine and hop in some games. The one thing I will mention, not a long session. It is 2:41 in the morning. It's way too late. I never get in a session this late, but I made an exception for a friend. And I'm only in Vegas for like 16 hours as I'm here to do some stuff very quickly. So anyways, let's hop into today's session. It's gonna be an absolute blast. Hopefully we run it up because the last couple sessions have not been too nice to us. Welcome to Las Vegas Poker. Alrighty, folks. I want to let you guys know something really important to me starting off with. For some reason, the Bellagio, the Aria, these places in Vegas kind of feel like the mecca of poker in a lot of ways. Sure, like the Rio or the WSOP in general has that same kind of vibe, if you may, but there's something about playing cash in these places. Especially when I was growing up, it just felt like this is the end all be all. Now that I've played poker for quite some time and I've rose to the ranks, let me tell you guys something. The games in these places almost always suck. It's really dependent on tourists coming through to make the games fun or make the games action. And for the most part, the player pool has turned into an absolute reg fest. Not fun. So, you know, this is not meant to be throwing shade at anybody. I think, you know, the player pool in Vegas, to be quite honest, is going to be one of the more stronger player pools for regs than, I don't know, maybe most of the rest of the country, at least the United States. Anyways, this very first hand is an interesting one. As we're playing 4 or 5 handed at this point, we're in a must move game that's going to be closing up pretty soon, it feels like. We looked down a king 8 on the button. I'm going to go ahead and raise it here to $30. The small blind decides to 3-bet to $110. This is a fun spot. I'm really, you know, early in the session, I'm happy to mix things up. So I decide to make it $270 to go. A 4-bet with this hand is not great. It has no correlation. I only block kings and I guess 8s, but not a great hand. To my surprise, the small blind decides to 5-bet to $800. I decide to fold my hand. There's nothing left here. The jig is up, and I'm actually joking with him, and I ask him to show me a bluff because I don't believe him. I say, I'll give you $1,000. He shows me an ace of hearts, and I say, see, look, you didn't have a bluff, I guess. And he shows the 5 of hearts to follow it. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I joke around with him. I say, I don't think that was a bluff, actually, because I had king high. But hopefully that's a sign of things to come. Hopefully people are willing to mix it up, because as we know, things haven't been going in our favor the last few sessions. We're looking to turn things around. A few hands later, I find myself in the big blind. And yes, we're playing 3-handed or 4-handed at this point. Probably going to be breaking a little soon. Under the gun decides to raise to $30. The small blind calls, and I'm in the big blind with 10-9 offsuit. I decide to make the call as well. We're going off to a flop that is no bueno, as it comes queen 5-4 rainbow. I check it over to the initial raiser after it's checked over to me, and he decides to check it back. The turn card comes a beautiful 9 of clubs, giving us second pair. With the action now on me, I decide to bet $50 for value. We're looking at target hands like Jack 10, King 10, Ace highs, and random middling pairs. The initial raiser decides to make the call. The small blind folds, and we're going off to a river card that comes a 4 of hearts. Pairing the board now, my kicker is improved to a queen, but we're not really, you know, all that worried about the kicker problems. I'm going to go ahead and bet here once again for value for $100. Going fairly thin, but I think I can definitely get called by ace high and some random middling pairs. My opponent pretty quickly decides to make the call, and just like that, the table has broken. And we're going to be picking up our chips and moving over to the next table, which is going to be a little bit bigger of a game. By this point, we have found ourselves at this new table, and we've agreed as a table to make it 5-10-20. The straddle was on, and I had mentioned to them that I'd like to change the structure of the game. If we're going to be playing 5-10-20, I like to buy in a little bit larger because 1,500 is just not a lot of fun. I don't want to play with 70 big blinds or 75 big blinds. So we end up making the game 5-10-20. So the 20 is a third blind, and there is 3K cap or something. So I'm into the game for 3K, and we find ourselves in a fun situation. The hijack makes it $50. The short stack and the cutoff makes a call. We're in the button, and we look down at queen 10 offsuit. You've got to have some of these random Broadway hands that are offsuit in your 3-bet range, I feel like. So in position, I'm going to go ahead and make it $220. I'm okay with the sizing. I think 250 or 300 is a little bit better, but 4x, you know, can't kill myself over it. I just don't like that somebody's in the middle and calls. That is really on a short stack. I'd rather put him in a bind. Anyways, everyone else folds except for the second caller, which is the cutoff. He's, you know, somewhere around $500 effective behind. We're going off to a flop, hoping that we connect in some fashion or see a board that I can see bet at. The flop comes 8-6-5 with 2 clubs and a diamond. Unfortunately, my opponent does not even allow me to bet, even though, to be quite honest, I would not have c-bet this flop. It's just not great for me and going to be more beneficial for him. He decides to donk lead for $500 jam. I'm going to go ahead and pretty quickly make the fold. Looks like this session's not going to be going in our favor. Unfortunately here, we were not able to hit the flop and not even able to have a chance to bluff at it. Although, like I mentioned, this is not a bluff or a hand, I should say, I'd be bluffing with on a board texture against this specific size stack. I just don't find myself bluffing here all that often. Here we are in the big blind in a very interesting situation when it folds all the way to the small blind and he makes it $50 out of position. I find myself, like I mentioned, the big blind, so I'm going to go ahead and look down at king 10 offsuit. Not that I'd have a choice. I'm going to always look down on my hand. In this situation, I decided to play a little more aggressive because I'm in position and 3-bet to $150. The small blind pretty instantly makes the call. And we're going off to a flop that comes 9-9-6, 2 clubs and a diamond. The action checks over to me, and it's just unlikely that I'd be betting and getting a better hand to fold here. And I'm not really worried about all that much. I feel like king high is good enough for showdown, some propensity of the time. So I end up making the check back with a turn card coming, the ace of hearts. The action checks over to me. I decide to use this as a bet for $80, considering it's definitely more favorable for my range than my opponent's. My opponent unbelievably decides to check raise me to $220. I'm not sure what the hell he's repping here. Maybe 10-9, 8-9, 7-9, jack-9. He can definitely have trips here, but otherwise, I don't know what the heck he's repping. I don't know. To me, it just feels like a really bluffy spot. So I end up making the call. We're going off to a river that comes a 5 of spades. My opponent decides to bet once again for $340, and I'm just super curious here. I just don't know what the heck he's representing. The one thing I will give him, you know, some credit for is his bet sizing. I think if you bet like a polar sizing, like pot or a little more, I'd be more inclined to make the call. But considering he bet a little bit on the smaller side, you know, they say like sometimes smaller is better. If he was bluffing here, it's nice that he can bluff for a smaller sizing. I just don't know what the hell he's repping. And usually when that's the case, my curiosity gets the best of me and I make the call. But that is not the case this time around. I mean, to be quite fair, these people are, you know, usually knitting it up, and I feel like giving them action's not that great. So I give him credit for it. I just don't know what the heck he's repping. So I end up making the fold, the disciplined fold, at least in my book. He does not show it, and we'll never know if we made a good fold. As you guys can see so far in the session, I've been kind of getting beat up. I'm lumped up at this point. I feel like Rocky Balboa, though, you know, if you're gonna beat me up, you're gonna have to really take me out, you know, because at this point, I'm gonna get down, I'm gonna get back up. Eventually, I've got to shake off the wounds, I've got to shake off the knockout, and give myself a chance to make some money here. In this next hand, the cutoff makes it $50. I'm on the button, I make the call. The straddler makes a call. We're going 3 ways to a flop that comes queen, queen, jack, rainbow. Bada bing, finally we find ourselves in a very advantageous situation. It checks over to me. And I'm kind of in a weird spot here. I could definitely be betting here a lot of the time. I don't know what's the optimal thing to do, but I decide to bet here kind of small, considering I have a pretty stranglehold on this hand. There's not a whole lot I need to be worried about besides some straight draws, and even then, I block them because I have a 10. I bet $50. The straddler makes a call, the initial raiser makes the fold, and we're going off to a turn card that comes at 8 of diamonds, bringing a backdoor flush draw, giving me a gut shot to a straight draw. When the action checks over to me, I decide to bet here once again for $170. The straddler pretty quickly makes a call yet again. We're going off to a river that comes a deuce of clubs. This changes absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing to the board texture. If my opponent is a sicko and he just decided to calm me down with pocket deuces, you know, all power to him. It's just not something to be worried about. At this point, I put my opponent on some kind of random holding. If he has queen 9 or jack 10, ace jack, I feel like he's going to have a really tough time making a big fold, especially when I go for a polar sizing. I end up bombing this river for $800, a massive sizing, and my opponent goes deep into the tank. Let's fast forward the clip here because we don't have enough time to watch this man tank for the next couple minutes. My opponent, after a great deal of time, decides to make the call. We show down our hand, and it is good. Very happy to finally go into the right direction. I'm happy to make that bet on the river. I can definitely have busted diamonds on the river, or even a hand like ace 10 of diamonds would be perfect to bluff with the river, considering We do break out, but we'd have a blocker to a straight. Anyways, feels nice to go kind of thin for an overbet and still get paid off by an inferior hand. In this following hand, a very solid young pro decides to open from early position of 50 bucks. The straddle is on, as it has been in every one of these hands pretty much. The small blind makes a call. We're in the straddle. We look down at 5-4 offsuit. Pretty bad hand. This is an easy fold. Wait. What? I'm calling here? Ah, this can only mean trouble. Not very happy about that. Maybe the 5 o'clock in the morning with very little sleep is catching up to me, but hopefully we can get lucky and bailed by the deck. Anyways, we're going 3 ways off to a flop that comes jack 6 deuce with 2 spades and a heart. The action checks over to the initial raiser, who c-bets for $50 here with a gut shot. I mean, if we got here, we're going to have to probably make the bet. So I end up making the call, and we're going off to a turn card that comes at 10 of diamonds. The action checks over to the initial raiser, who decides to check it back. And we're going off to a river that comes a 3 of diamonds. Great, we've now rivered ourselves straight. This is a very powerful, advantageous situation. I want to go really big here and polarize myself to target a middling pair or a random jack holding. I can easily be doing this with some random busted draws for myself as well. So I make it $300. At this point, my opponent goes slightly into the tank and it hits me. I have 5-3 and not 5-4. Gosh darn it. We rivered third pair or fourth pair, whatever it is. Jeez Louise, what am I doing? 5 o'clock in the morning poker is just not meant for me. This is a horrible situation, and it becomes even more horrible when my opponent makes a call.
I have a 3. I misread my fucking hand. I thought I had 5-4.
You can hear from the audio that I say, gosh darn it, I thought I had a straight. But, you know, even the best of us or the worst of us make the worst of these mistakes. Unfortunate situation, and it's just piggybacking on bad after bad after bad. This session has been a nightmare, and I'm probably going to need to get the hell out of this game very soon. As things start to progress and move along, early position decides to make it 60 bucks. The straddle is on as mentioned before. I looked down at pocket tens here against early position, and when I'm next to act, I think it'd be a little foolish to raise. So I make just the old-fashioned call here. Don't want to overplay my hand. I don't want to get 4 bets and have to fold the equity that I hold in the hand. So we're going off, heads up to a flop when no one else makes the call. That comes jack 6-4 rainbow. The opposition decides to bet a little bit on the larger side for 80 bucks. I'm never folding middle pair here, so I make the call. The turn card comes in 9 of hearts. Now things are getting a little more worrisome, especially when the opponent decides to bet 220. It makes me feel like he's a little more likely to have an overpair or a pretty strong jack. But again, there's still going to be some random bluffs. I guess he can 2-barrel with ace king or ace queen. So I end up making the call. And we're going off to a river that comes at 8 of clubs. The opposition does not stop betting though. $300. And at this point, I find myself in a really sticky situation. I don't even know what's going on here. I don't know what he's representing. Sure, he can have an overpair, ace jack or king jack, but at the time I'm thinking, look, I double block the nuts with 2 10s here. Why not make a raise here? Especially when that turn card comes the 9 of clubs. It's a little more likely for me to have, wait. The turn card's not the 9 of clubs, okay? I was right originally. I said the 9 of hearts and the river's 8 of clubs. So I'm going to restart this little part here. I double block the nuts here, which would be the straight, which would be queen 10. So I'm just kind of in a predicament. He can't have a straight here. He's betting pretty small, so I feel like he's weighted to pretty much only 1 pair holdings. So I decide to raise to $1,100. And this is where it's just egregiously bad. This river is a snap fold. It's never a raise. If I'm raising with the hand as strong as pocket tens here, what the hell can I have as a hero call on the river? This is really horrible, and it's almost like a disservice to decent poker when I make ridiculous moves like this. And to be fair to myself, I'm going to get it enough in the comment section probably. I got to be a little fair to myself, and that is that it's super late. I'm on very little sleep, and I'm trying to make an entertaining vlog, or at least that's what I'm thinking at the time. But this is just never a raise. This hand still gets more interesting as my opponent beats himself up and says, gosh darn it, why did I make that bet on the river?
Don't know what these bluffs is. Can I show one without like getting banned or something?
You know, to be honest, I'm not positive. I can call the floor over to ask.
I mean, it's between you and me, right?
Yeah.
So
In my opinion, I don't think so, but again, I don't want to speak out of turn.
against Bellagio, but we don't care.
Oh, and everybody's cool here. I'm cool.
Sometimes gonna hurt.
I can't show the other one. I'm sorry.
It'd be nice if you did.
I'm gonna put this one away so we don't get in any trouble.
Yeah, good man.
And you can see in the video here and hear a little bit in the audio that I show my opponent the 10 of clubs, hoping at this point, trying everything I can, as that is one of the worst cards that I think he can see. If I could show him a 9 or a 10, I feel like those are two cards that he does not want to see. The 10 gives me a 50% chance to having the straight here. And if I show him a 9, it's very likely that I can have pocket 9s, Jack 9, and those holdings also beat him, or at least what I perceive for him to hold. After quite a bit of tanking, my opponent makes a very great call. We show pocket 10s and he shows ace jack offsuit. So unlucky for us, we could not get a fold out of him, but a really, really poorly played hand. And again, I can only credit so much to sleepiness. I still, at the end of the day, if I'm at the table, I've got to perform my very best. So just unfortunate for us here, and we're just going to go ahead and pretty much wrap up this session. We have one more really important hand to go over, and that'll be it. And this is what you guys came for, the main event, the last fight on the card. I find myself in the cutoff when we look down at 10-9 of diamonds. Oh man, I'm so freaking happy to finally see a really fun hand like this. I make it $60 to go. The small blind, who's definitely that really solid young pro that we mentioned earlier, he 3-bets to $240. 4x out of position is pretty perfect from his part. Too bad for him that I'm never going to be folding a hand as strong as this in position, and considering we're both playing around 3k effective, somewhere around that, or maybe 3,500 if I'm not mistaken, I end up making the call. We're going off to a flop that comes 9-4-3, 2 clubs and a diamond. We flop a top pair and a backdoor flush draw. The opponent decides to bet for $300. Again, this is a little worrisome when these pros bet a little bigger. It's usually weighted to some pretty strong hands or some really big combo draws. So I end up making the call, playing this cautiously, going off to a turn card that comes a 10 of clubs. Yes, finally, we have a massive, massive hand here. We have top 2 pair, and sure, there is a chance that my opponent can have a flush and I'm drawing pretty close to dead. But again, I did not get here. I did not turn 2 pair to start making some crazy laydowns or some kind of nitty plays. So things get a little more confusing when my opponent decides to bet once again for $360. Going like, I don't know, 50 or 60% on the flop and then betting 30% of the turn seems kind of odd, especially on this turn card that's a little more dynamic. So I end up raising here to 1k. The reason I'm doing this is I can definitely get called or jammed on by pretty big draws. And if that's the case, I'm just never going to fold, like I said, anyways. And moreover, it's important to get more money in the middle when I think that I'm ahead. I can definitely get called by a hand like aces with the ace of clubs, kings with the king of clubs, combo draws that are like king jack with a club, a bunch of random holdings like that. Anyways, after a bit of tanking, and it is quite a big tank, my opponent decides to jam all in here, having me covered. I have about 2,500 or something like that. I end up calling for 1,800 more total for about 2,800, in my effective stack. We agree to run it out 2 times. The first board comes out a 7 of clubs, not good. The second river is a 9 of hearts, so at least I know I'm taking down one of these pots. My opponent does in fact show pocket aces with the ace of clubs. I'm pretty frustrated, and you can hear from the audio, I'm super low on sleep, and I finally find myself in a massive pot and can only walk away with it with a chop.
It's annoying, man. Christ.
Pair 9s and 10s, and we have a chop.
This is no fun, no bueno, not good. Not happy about it, but what can you do? This just is what it is. I play 1 or 2 more hands after that and bleed off in pots where I call a 3-bet and have to check fold or check call small on the flop and fold a turn. Things didn't turn out great for me in this session. Getting chopped there really took the wind out of the sails for the night. And just like that, I'm going to go ahead and close out today's session. Let's go over to me in person in the parking lot at the beautiful Bellagio to see how we feel to close out the session.
And just like that, our session is over. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. Man, I fucking played like shit. I don't get tilted often, but I do when I play like just horrifically bad. And I know it seems like a lot of you guys appreciate when I'm honest. But man, I can't bullshit that. I just played pretty bad. What's frustrating, why I'm a little frustrated, and I'm sure it's coming across in the video, is that even with how bad we played, we had an opportunity to get unstuck in a pretty massive pot where we were a favorite, and we ended up losing, or not losing, but chopping. So it is what it is. I mean, sometimes poker's like that. The only rough thing is I'm in a little bit of a downswing, and we are at a loss for the month of April, which is almost over. By the time you guys are seeing this, the month is over. Anyways, the first time I had a loss in a while. That's enough for the moment. I'll see you guys soon. Appreciate you guys always. Take care. Bye. Oh, wait. I forgot to give you guys the numbers. I was into today's game for 3,000 and out for 18 and some change. So we lost like 1,200 bucks. Could have been worse. I'm just really disappointed with how I played. And yeah, I just want to get home. It's like 5 in the morning. And I didn't deserve to win anyways today because I played so bad. So appreciate you guys as always. Hopefully you guys like, subscribe, comment. Like 60 or 70% of you guys don't even subscribe. So, you know, make the pain a little less painful by subscribing. It would mean a lot to me, guys. Have a great day. Stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, run good at the tables, y'all. Deuces.